Folks, Gregg Bendian here at the PROGCAST, where we get to talk to the best of the best. And today I'm back with my dear friend, you know him, you love him, John PUGWASH Weathers, drummer from Gentle Giant, and actually a bunch of other things that you maybe don't know about him. That's where we're going to go today. We're going to talk about drummers and drumming and some music history. And as always, I thank you for viewing and invite you to visit us on Patreon, subscribe, like, help us keep this thing going. It's now our 5th anniversary. We've been doing this for 5 years, and we're inching up on 150 episodes. And I've now had John on the program a few times, and we always have a good time chatting. Welcome, John, my friend. How are you?
Very well, thank you. It's lovely to be back, Greg. Back in my friend's company.
Same thing right here.
Yeah, we've been good buddies for a long, long time.
Yes, we have. A couple of decades. And you are the gentleman that I always enjoy speaking with because you tell it like it is, and you have a good memory, and you do have a lot of range in terms of what you bring to the music as a drummer. And I always liked your tastefulness. I've always enjoyed your enthusiasm, the way you hit. I mean, we all talk about John Weathers and how he brings it on those giant recordings and live. So today, I have a few questions that we haven't really touched upon before in our talks. There's a period of time where we're transitioning in music history from skiffle and other types of popular music in Great Britain. And there's not really rock music until a certain moment. What's the moment? What's the changeover? I know it has to do with the Beatles, but I'm kind of interested in more than that. Where you're going as a 15-year-old to Liverpool, right? And Merseybeat is happening. Can you give us an idea of what that scene is like and sort of what the drumming requirements were, what the musical situation was before that, and then how things look when you get to the Liverpool scene?
Well, before that, as you say, it was kind of skiffle. But I was into rock music before I went to Liverpool, because of I've told you in the past that the first thing that interested me was All Shook Up by Elvis. And I just loved Little Richard and that kind of stuff. I remember the other day that I was the only person in a town of 30,000 that bought You Can't Sit Down by the Philip Church combo, because I just loved it. I heard it on the radio and I said, I gotta have that. And I always thought that Philip Church was the keyboard player, but he was the guitar player. Anyway, I was into all of that kind of stuff before I went to Liverpool. Anything rock and roll, and the Shadows and Cliff Richard, that English stuff. Well, when I got to Liverpool, I was amazed because there was a band on every street almost. Music was so popular there. Dozens of clubs. And it seemed like everybody played in a band. And they were all playing the same stuff. They were all playing the same set. which was rock and roll tunes. Some of the Guy, Farmer John, really typical stuff. And they all played the, as I say, they all had the same set pretty much. Even the Beatles, their first album, mostly covers. Yeah, Kansas City. Everybody played Kansas City, and I just met two guys in a pub who were we got a band. They didn't have a bass player, just two guitars and a drum kit. So I went around the pubs playing with those guys. But it was very exciting. It was really good. I got a little story actually. You must have heard of the Swinging Blue Jeans.
No.
Oh, the Swinging Blue Jeans were they had a big hit, and the Hippie Shake. I think it was an American tune, but they had a big hit in Britain with it, and they were from Liverpool. And I was playing after I came back from Liverpool. I was playing with the Peter Shane and the Vikings. Our set was pretty much the same as all the Liverpool bands' sets, all rock and roll covers. Anyway, we were playing, supporting the Swinging Blue Jeans in Haverfordwest, in the town hall there. And we were really excited about this because they were a top 10 band. So we went in and they had their gear set up and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, we sort of went to chat with them and say hello and all that. They wouldn't even speak to us. I was amazed. They'd had one hit and they wouldn't speak to us. It was all, who are you? What are you doing here? Oh, we're the support band. Oh, really? So I got really annoyed at this, really annoyed. Anyway, they'd left their set list. Do you know where this is going?
Go ahead.
They'd left their set list on the table. So I said to the singer, have you seen this? He said, what? I said, it's their set list, look. And he went, oh, we played that. Oh, and that. I said, yeah. And we're going to play it all in that order tonight.
That's a good one.
So anyway, that's what it was like in Liverpool in 1961/2. A very exciting musical place to be, like bands everywhere. And they were all pretty good.
But is it fair to say that it would have been the Beatles really sticking out musically, or is it their look and their sort of cutesy kind of thing that they had going on that sort of launches them? And one other thing is, did you see them with Pete Best?
No, I never saw the Beatles at all.
Oh, okay.
Because by the time I arrived, they just released Love Me Do. So they were kind of only sporadically playing in Liverpool. But all their peers, the rest of the bands that kind of followed them, the Merseybeat thing, Jerry and the Pacemakers, I saw those, and the Big Three, which were a great band. Really, I think they were probably the best of the Liverpool bands, was the Big Three. They stood out, I think, because Brian Epstein had an effect on them. he said, you want to smarten yourselves up. And all the rest of the Liverpool bands kind of followed them, but they had a huge following. They were the most popular band in Liverpool anyway, and in Manchester and around the whole area. But once they started doing their own songs, Love Me Do kind of went a bit under the radar. But the follow-up single, it was so different that they just won everybody over. And as soon as they started writing their own stuff, come the Revolver era, that's when they really shone. Yeah. Before that, they were just a regular kind of rock band.
And did you dig Ringo's drumming when you heard it first time?
So he was adequate, the same as all the drummers that played in the bands. They kept the beat. There was this particular kind of what they call the Merseybeat, and all of them played it, and everybody played the same kind of drum fills. And the one thing about the big three, there was the drummer, Johnny Hutchinson. He was absolutely brilliant, a great technician, and he was also the band singer. He had a microphone between his legs playing. Yeah, he was a great player. I thought Ringo was good enough anyway. I didn't think, oh, he's really wonderful.
But okay, explain for us maybe when we say there's a Merseybeat, what are the origins of that rhythmic feel? Do you know?
Yeah, I do know that. That's what the Beatles kind of picked up when they were playing Germany and heard all the American music, by the Miracles and stuff like that. And there was that kind of swing to it. Bass drum, boom boom, snare drum, da 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 ba boom, da 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 ba boom, da 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 ba. But swinging, just like a curve on it.
Is it fair to say that that's coming somehow from skiffle?
I think that came from rhythm and blues,
from American rhythm and blues. But what is the job of a drummer who's in a skiffle band? What is the drummer doing in that situation?
Well, a skiffle band was like bordering on traditional jazz, like the stuff from New Orleans.
Dixieland, sort of?
Yeah, that kind of thing. 3-pointing. Doom duck doom duck doom duck doom duck doom. And they teach us bass, that kind of thing. And acoustic guitars, strumming,
right,
and a country type of stuff.
Rockabilly, maybe?
Yeah, very close to rockabilly. Very, very close indeed.
Interesting. Because I'm always interested in that moment where guys like Ginger Baker, guys like Mitch Mitchell, clearly were jazzy guys who then came over to this other aggressive style of drumming. And where that comes from has never been quite clear to me, but there's obviously a moment, maybe post 66, and then Mitch is around in 67 on Are You Experienced, and you hear that, ding, 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 Third Stone, he's swinging.
Oh yeah, but they were. Remember, it used to be called modern jazz. At one time, there was like jazz, which was the 30s big band stuff. I mean, that was called jazz. And then there was modern jazz. There was even the MJQ, Modern Jazz Quartet. Yeah, which was a deeper kind of jazz, a very creative, the Mahavishnu of the jazz era. They were into that,
right?
And then they developed. Ginger went to rhythm blues with
Graham
Bond, with Graham Bond, and Mitch was a rock drummer, but he was from that school, the 3-point school, and lots of fills and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said that he should have taken over from Keith Moon.
Yeah, I think in some ways relegated to that one Hendrix connection, but would have been interesting to hear him in other situations like that. Sure, the Who, wow, that's interesting.
Well, he would have been the closest to Keith Moon because of his love for the fills.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Who is a 3-piece band with a singer.
Right.
It's a trio.
Right.
So there's loads of room for that, that busy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I thought Mitch would have done a great job there.
Do you remember your first drum kit?
Yes.
What was it?
I think it was called a John Gray. It consisted of a bass drum, a snare drum, a concert tom, which would have been about 12-inch, or could have been 14-inch. It was a funny old thing, and it kind of just hung onto the bass drum, and one cymbal and a hi-hat. And I bought it for £14, and had it sent up to Liverpool when I left Carmarthen. I had it before I was in a band. I used to go and just play around with a guitar player friend of mine, but mostly played in the house when my parents were out.
Was that a known drum company at the time?
Yeah, it was a British drum company. It was the cheaper end of Premier drums and all of this kind of stuff.
And Premier was the flagship company?
I don't know if they were for John Gray. There would have been Arbiter, or there was one company. The second kit I had was called a Stratford, and that looked like a proper kit, and that was made by the same company, I think. It's all kind of murky.
Yeah.
And I didn't worry about what make they were, as long as they made a noise.
Sure.
My parents refused to buy me a drum kit, you see. So I saved up and I went out and bought my own, and they didn't like it.
They were hoping you'd lose interest, so they didn't want to push it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I know that one. John, if this isn't too arcane, but what were cymbals like? What were you dealing with in terms of metal? What were the cymbals? What was the cymbal situation? You have access to Zildjian? Did you have access?
No, I didn't. I wouldn't know a good cymbal if it hit me on the head. I don't know what that's all I knew was the worst you could possibly get were crut. Krut. The ones that I had didn't even have a maker's name on them, and they just sounded terrible.
Mm.
It was only in about 1966 when I joined the Eyes of Blue that I suddenly understood all about good cymbals. Before that, I wouldn't know what a good cymbal was.
Sure. The Eyes of Blue is something that we really haven't spoken about. We've mentioned it as a precursor, but I'm interested in it. I mean, you've got Gary Pickford Hopkins in there, and is it maybe a proto prog band? Is starting to inch towards odd meters or different types of song structures? What can you tell us? And are there any recordings of Eyes of Blue that you think can be found or should be looked at?
Well, the first one we made, which was Crossroads of Time, was more kind of rhythm and blues and soul. Because that was the one that we did a couple of Graham Bond's tunes on. He helped us out on that. But then on the second album, we'd kind of been influenced by the West Coast bands and started, the keyboard player, Phil Ryan, was a classical musician. And he said, hey, how about we, take bits of classical tunes and work on them and do a rock thing on them. So that's what we did. And Richie, the bass player, and myself and the rest of the band started writing stuff then. That was different, leaning towards that kind of thing. We were so influenced by the West Coast movement, Moby Grape and and all those guys, The Doors, Love, all of that started coming through. Yeah. So that we were transitioning then. And that's why the second album was called In Fields of Ardath. And that's like an early prog album, that's for sure. And like there's a big jam section in the middle of one of the tunes, and there's lots of Bach type vocals, and well, unusual arrangements, quite a lot of sixes. And then the last album was made under the name of Big Sleep, and that was like proggy, but more kind of prog poppy, poppy prog.
What year would that be, John?
That would be 60, 68, 69.
Would Keith Emerson and the Nice have been part of this whole thing?
Yeah, they would go in then. They were a good band.
Yeah.
But they were a backing band for P.P. Arnold doing pop stuff. So that was when they were doing pop. And it's only then the Nice split from P.P. Arnold and kind of moved on. All the bands were moving on at that time, or most of them anyway. Kind of a lot of them went into pop, and the rest of them went into prog. Like Yes went into prog, and this is pre-Crimson. I think, Crimson didn't exist then.
Right, not till 69, but before that it's Giles Fripp.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember them being anything other than a jazz group.
Do you remember being in Eyes of Blue and running into Simon Dupree and the Big Sound?
Yes.
What was
Oh,
that like?
that would have been 67
Yeah.
when they came down to play in the Ritz Ballroom in Skewin, and we always supported the Ritz in Skewin had chart bands every single Thursday, so we played with all the bands that were in the charts, and they came down and we enjoyed them. They were a good band and we got on really great with them. They were a really friendly bunch of guys, and I got on especially well with Ray, and that's how I actually got the job in Gentle Giant because of Ray and the friendship that we had just that one night. Isa Blue went to play in Portsmouth a few months later, and Ray came along with one of the other members of the band, just to see us again and say hello. That's the kind of guy that Ray was. And the Isa Blue was a pretty hot soul band, and that's what we were playing when we played with Simon Dupree. It was purely a soul band. But we got to see a lot of good bands and play with a lot of good bands.
We recently lost Ray, and I was hoping that we could talk a little bit about Ray Shulman because he's such an amazing figure in music. When you look at his instrumentalism, when you look at his compositional skills and what he brought to what we now take for granted as progressive rock.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you see another guy with classical in there.
Yeah. I really do believe that you had to have somebody with a bit of classical, to be prog.
Yes.
Because there's that approach. That was the difference. Having that extra knowledge, to be not afraid of go just whoosh, let's go and write something that you don't care about that the tempo's going from 6/8 to a bar at 12 something or whatever. You just don't worry about it. You follow the tune. And Ray had classical training. Kerry is he's not on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
As far as writing is concerned. I mean, he is a classical composer.
Yeah.
To my mind, a classical composer.
Agreed. Yeah.
And it was a classical piece arranged for a prog band. That's what happened with Kerry. Because most of the stuff he'd written, absolute masterpieces. Fantastic. I mean, there's nobody to touch him.
I have to agree wholeheartedly. And you prove a point that I have brought up frequently in kind of my view of what progressive consists of. It was the inclusiveness also of jazz, including rock and roll, including classical, including other. The idea that now all of these things are coming together. And I think Revolver is a proto-prog album for that reason.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, definitely. Without a doubt. I mean, that expanded the boundaries. We all turned. I mean, most bands were playing soul then, and of course there was rubber soul. There was quite a lot of stuff on that.
Right. Yes.
And to hear that, because it's very, very inventive. And don't forget, you're still on a 4-track machine.
4-track.
Oh, come on.
They figured it out.
Oh, yeah. They nailed it.
Yeah.
They really did nail it. And that's when we all started thinking, hang on, these songs are right off the wall. We can do something like that. In fact, the Eyes of Blue did a cover version of Yesterday, which is like almost a prog version of Yesterday, because Phil Ryan wrote a very classical intro to it, and it came out as a single as well.
Well,
but it was a great attempt,
And there's also this thing around that time, which people maybe in retrospect are now calling Baroque pop. Have you heard that term?
I haven't, to be honest with you.
Well, if you think about things like Jennifer Juniper by Donovan, where there's a wind section, and there's the idea that it's almost like a chamber ensemble at the same time as it's a rock band. Early Elton John could have fit into that, and or Reg, as some people referred to him back in the day. But that's interesting because I've always felt that those bands that we talk about when we talk about Giant, when we talk about Genesis, when we talk about Egg, when we talk about The Nice, when we talk about Yes, there's always somebody in there, particularly keyboard player, that has the classical training.
Yes.
And I think that's an essential ingredient to that, because what is prog but ambitious songwriting?
Yeah. And you've got to have the chops, when you're writing it. So you've got to be somebody like, Ray or Kerry. And Kerry is pure classical and Baroque. I mean, that's what he studied in music college. And the things he could put together, just vocal arrangements.
Right.
Oh, you'd never, an ordinary rock band would never dream of that. They'd just do a 4-part harmony on a 4x4/4, and that would be it. They wouldn't be the kind of adventurous hocketing, I think you guys call it.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't get knots. You don't get On Reflection without Ray and Kerry kind of being in there, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yes. And the inventive bass lines that Ray used to play. I mean, just fantastic bass lines, so rhythmic and tuneful, and he was such, so great to play with.
Amazing. We miss him, but his impact will always be there.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh, I miss him terribly. He's just and a wonderful guy. When you've got players and writers of the standard of Kerry and Ray, and not only can they write this wonderful music, but they're such sweet people. Kerry is such a sweet bloke. He's a lovely, lovely man. You've spoken to him yourself, and he's so kind of naive and just a sweetheart of a guy, and very self-effacing. Oh no, you can't tell me I'm brilliant. You're not allowed to tell me I'm brilliant because I don't think I am. That's Kerry.
Humble.
Oh, more than humble.
Humble to a fault.
Yeah.
Well, we know, we know what he brought, and we know that that stuff stands up because of just the level of quality, the level of inventiveness, the level of pure musicality.
Mm.
It wasn't about, well, we've got a hook here. What's the hook? Well, how are we going to bring people in? But his riffs and his patterns and the chord sequences are just something that you're still kind of dealing with. I can listen to, and I don't have all of them down in terms of who did what, but something like The Face or No God's a Man, where the vocal arranging on that stuff is just so three-dimensional, I think is the word.
Mm. Oh yeah, I did one of the vocal parts on No God's a Man, and I so enjoyed it. Oh, it was a challenge, and getting out there and doing it in one take. That was really good fun, and I enjoyed singing it. I really, really enjoyed singing it. It was good, and there was a nice the mixture of the voices of texture and stuff was good in that.
Yeah, and everything is sort of folding over on each other in terms of the lines of that. And so that's something you did not hear in rock music, but you sort of had, again, that gauntlet was thrown down by the Beatles for vocal arranging. And I wanted to mention the fact that, they have their classical guy in George Martin.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's why they always said he was the fifth Beatle, because he would advise them on well, if we played that chord instead of the one you're playing, you know, uh, and playing that piano solo and stuff, lots of things. And he was a great classical player.
Yeah.
And he brought a lot to the band.
But there's another guy who sort of becomes Giant's, well, certainly champion, but has that background too, which is Tony Visconti.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any contact with him?
No, I never worked with him. No, he'd gone by the time I joined, and they'd actually done Three Friends on their own. They produced that as well. So I didn't join until just before Octopus.
Right. So when you're coming in into Giant, this is like a sort of one week before you guys are supposed to get started on the tour. But is that correct?
Yes, but not may have been 10 or 14 days,
Right.
but it was pretty close.
So you're learning the material. I'm assuming you're pretty comfortable with it. But then the process of working towards Octopus, we haven't really spoken a lot about that. Do you play the xylophone solo on Knots? That's Kerry?
No. Oh no, I couldn't play xylophone or vibes.
But you did ultimately.
Ultimately, yeah, I learned the part parrot fashion for on the section.
So do you recall the process of putting the material together for Octopus?
Yeah, I remember it very well.
Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Well, it was drums first. They just looked for drums, and everything else was rough. And then it just layered. Ray would go in and replace the bass first, because that was nearly always DI.
Right.
But then we started looking for sounds, particular sounds on the guitar, particular keyboards, particular keyboard sounds. And of course, the way they looked at it, if you went, it was much quicker to just do the drums and get your bed, get
Foundation.
your base,
Yeah.
your foundation there, and then you just build up from that. Rather than take a lot of time, getting the guitar sound right and getting the keyboard sound right, it would just be a Wurlitzer, Gary just playing a guitar, DI usually, and getting the drums. Are we happy with the drums? Yes, we're happy with the drums. Okay, let's move on.
But I'm not clear. Did you play along with them and they kept the drums? How did you get through the tune?
No, the whole band played together in the studio, but they were only looking for drums. That's why the guitar was DI, the keyboards would be DI, and the bass would be DI. So the only thing mic'd in the studio was the drum kit.
Interesting. Wow. And you would keep your takes, your early takes. You wouldn't go back and ever change any drum parts?
No, we should have. We've talked about the couple of spots, where my mistakes. They said, "Oh, don't worry about it." And I go,
know.
Come on, boys, can I do another take? Oh, no, don't worry. It sounds great.
Well, it sounds like you're going for it. I mean, that's the thing about the early take and the idea of not overdoing takes.
That's right. Well, right from the word go, we wouldn't have more than 3 attempts. And if they didn't work, move on and go back. Because then it would get stale.
Yeah.
You play safe, the same, that drum break worked. I'll use that again.
Something that interests me that we haven't spoken about is when you go back to Wales after Giant and you're playing with Man and you're playing with Glenn Cornick, and there are these interesting encounters around that time. Cornick had just come from Tull?
Yeah. Glenn had got fired. He doesn't know why he got fired. Poor Glenn, I felt so sorry for him. And he was he was in a bad mental state. And I became friends with him because we met up in a club one night and sort of hit it off. And I'd always admired him as a bass player. And I was encouraging him to. I said, "Hey, we should put a band together." And eventually, we did. I got some guys, and he got one guy, and went from there. But I wasn't very happy with the guy that he got because he wasn't a musician. He was a kind of folk guitar player, and I just didn't like what was going on, really. And when Graham Bond comes and says, "Come and play in my band," I went.
Well, I want to talk about Graham, but let me ask you this. Did you notice, were you admire at all of the rhythm section of Glenn Cornick and Clive Bunker?
Yeah, I thought they were very, very good together. Clive Bunker's a great, great drummer. Really
Undersung.
excellent drummer. Excellent. In fact, when uh, Glenn got together with director, like no, Wild Turkey got back together for one album, and I was on it playing percussion because I wasn't playing drums anymore. And Clive was playing in that band, and we got on like a house on fire. It was great. He's a smashing guy and plays wonderfully.
That's so nice to hear. I feel he's been under considered, I think, in
Yeah.
Tull and just in drum world.
No, no, yeah, in the annals of drummers as such, you know, uh, he's up there. Got a great technique, brilliant.
Great feel.
Oh yeah. Oh, he can rock.
Hmm. Did you when Giant toured with Thick as a Brick? Now you've got Barrymore Barlow. Did you get on with him?
Yeah. All the best players are sweet guys. It's the guys with faults that have got a chip on their shoulder. Let me tell you. And that's from experience. The real good players always straight down the line, speak to anybody, give anybody advice, take advice from anybody if they're offering it. But they're really, really nice people. And Barry, oh, he was smashing, smashing guy. He even lent me a crash cymbal because I broke mine and I couldn't afford to buy another one. Well, that was on the first tour of America, you see,
Yeah.
and I didn't have a great deal of money, and he saw me break the cymbal, or heard that I'd broken the cymbal, and he said, "I got one you can borrow." So he lent me a crash cymbal, and then at the end of the tull section, I actually went and bought a crash cymbal one.
Mm. How was touring with Tull at that time?
Oh, wonderful. Really good. We had the same travel agent, so we were together most of the time. Same hotels, same flights, same gigs, obviously. So we'd see them every day, and I think they were only about three. We played for a month, and I think there were only about 3 days off in the whole of the month. It was real, but a great, great tour. We got on like a house on fire. They were all really nice guys. And when you're in the gig with somebody, and then you're having a drink in the hotel, and they all walk in, and then first thing the next morning you go down to breakfast. They're all there, and then meet at the airport and in between flights, and you're all chatting, and it was wonderful. Really got we learned a lot from Town. Well, they were all hands by then at touring America. They'd done quite a few tours, so they knew how to uh, entertain an audience. They were the real deal,
Right.
and there were no mountains of cocaine around. Just a few beers here and there, uh, and that was what was great about it, because we saw one end of the spectrum going out with Sabbath, and then suddenly we see the sensible end of the spectrum, where the guys go on sober every night and maybe have a couple of beers on stage and have a couple more when they come off. But and we went, right, okay,
Mm.
this is the way it's done.
The real deal. Yeah.
And we followed that. We followed those those guidelines right the way through our touring career.
Yeah, I think it must have been also a very accepting audience for you to play in front of Tull fans.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We went down extremely well. They were they were very warm towards us because Tull it is a prog band, you know,
Mhm.
folk prog band, but they're a prog band. I mean, and we toured. Thick as a Brick is their masterpiece,
Yeah.
and they played it in its entirety, from beginning to end, and then just stuck a few of the old favourites on for the encores at the end of the show. But it was a true representation of the album right from the word go, and I loved that. And I watched probably about 26 of the shows. It's I loved it every night. You knew what was coming, but they still played their hearts out and went, "This is the way it's done." You know,
And don't you think that an important piece there is the humor?
yes, very much so. Very, very much so. And but Ray didn't borrow that idea. He was already, it was humorous to watch him, especially on the violin solo, before we ever did that, before we ever did the Tull thing.
Yeah.
So he was an entertainer as well, and there was a lot of humor within the band.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, Ray was our harpo, our harpo Marx.
That's a funny way to put it. Wow.
Yeah, he really was.
But I've spoken with so many musicians about that period of time where you've got to figure out a way to entertain, right? So you've got a
Mhm,
situation where you want to play this heady music, you want to
mhm,
play classically inspired moments. It's a level of complexity that's not easy to pull off on stage. But it's funny because everyone knows the giant footage from around the time of Power and the Glory that was I think a Dutch TV program, and the effortlessness and the fun of it, which you saw in Tull, and that was the idea: was how do we reach out to bring people in to our quirky little world?
mhm. Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. It's all about entertainment, value for money. Get them on board. You get them on board, they love you, they go out and buy the record.
Mm,
But you're primarily there to entertain. And I've known that ever since my first gig.
right.
You look at them and it's all like young girls. Because the first gigs that I played were all there was no booze in the halls. So the girls would all come in early and dance, and then when the pub shut or were about to shut, all the guys would come in rolling drunk
Right.
and start berating the band for trying to pull their girlfriends and stuff. So,
Ah,
so entertaining, things did change obviously, but primarily it was entertain the girls because I was 16 years old. I wanted to entertain women. I wasn't that good looking, believe me. Still not.
do you remember a band called the Neutrons?
Yes, yeah, of course.
Can you tell us about that a little bit?
The Neutrons. Well, that was Phil Ryan and Will Hewitt. who were in the man band and went off on their own, decided that they split up. Man band went through a load of changes. They were changing musicians like nobody's business. Anyway, they put a band together called the Neutrons, and they were going to record their first album. And Phil gave me a ring and said, "Will you come and play on the album with us?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." He said, "We haven't got a full band. It's just the three of us, myself, Will Hewitt, and you at Rockfield." So I went up and did the first album, and then I did a couple of tracks on the second album a year later. And they asked me to join the Neutrons, leave Gentle Giant and join the Neutrons. And I said, "Sorry, guys, I can't."
See, I think people don't know enough about your non-giant activities, which is kind of like the impetus for this conversation. And I wonder if you could share some of those situations that we've been touching on that maybe we didn't touch on yet, where John Weathers is out there moving about, playing in different musical situations. Were there anything that you were particularly proud of or happy with that isn't giant related? Because I know how much you love the giant material. There must have been other things that you were really quite happy with, yes?
Well, I was very happy with the Eyes of Blue, the whole Eyes of Blue thing. Learned a lot, and met a lot of nice people through our producer. There were quite a lot of downs during that time. Pete Brown's band. I enjoyed playing the music with Pete Brown's band, but the actual experience itself wasn't very good because of Pete not paying the band. He said, "Will you join the band? I pay 30 pounds a week." I said, "Yeah, great." Moved up to London, sleeping on his floor, and after 2 weeks, there was no money. Now, this is the guy who did the lyrics for all of Cream's stuff.
Cream, yeah.
So he's got money coming out of his ears, and yet he's pleading poverty, and he didn't pay me for 10 weeks, I think it was. No money at all for 10 weeks. And meanwhile, we were recording, we were touring France and all that kind of stuff. Well, that was a downer. And I left Pete Brown's band to go in with Glenn. So that was a bit of a downer. Glenn's was so. I didn't get on with the guitar player and left to join Graham Bond, and that was a bit of a downer because he finished the band because he was going with Ginger Baker's Air Force, so he just knocked the band on the head, and they're like this. Oh, what happens now? And then after that, it was the Grease Band, which was an education.
I want to talk Grease Band with you, but I also would love to spend a moment talking about who was on the Graham Bond bands when you were there, and how did you feel about working with Graham in that situation?
Well, they were mostly unknowns. There was Graham, his wife Diane. There was a sax player. The guitar player I took from Glenn's band, Graham Williams, who was a great guitar player, played with racing cars, and myself, and that was it. Uh, he taught me a lot. I mean, it was all R&B and kind of jazzy, but the swing was there. And this is a guy playing bass pedals on the Hammond, and left hand is on the Hammond, right hand is on the soprano sax, playing a solo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and operating bass pedals at the same time.
Yeah, I've heard those stories and I'm glad to hear it firsthand from you.
But we had this thing. He could look at me and I'd know what he was doing. You must have had that
Yeah.
in the bands that you've been in. Just a glance,
Ideally, yes.
just a glance, and you'd know what was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, because I played in his band, I got the gig with Giant, because they came and saw us, and Ray said, "Oh yeah, I know him," and that's why I came up as a second choice when they were looking for a drummer for Giant.
Did you know Jack Bruce at all around that time?
Um, no, I met him a couple of times in Pete's flat, and also at very early gigs back in the 60s when it was a Graham Bond organisation with Ginger and Jack and Dick Extra. Um, and then he seemed like a very nice guy.
Great player, too. Great everything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Absolutely terrific player.
And I think maybe maligned, but I like that Tony Williams' lifetime then goes from
Mhm.
trio to including Jack Bruce.
Yeah.
And that's a very interesting lineup. Did you get to see Lifetime?
No, no.
No. Were you a Tony fan?
Little busy for me, but I enjoyed what I saw
Mm.
from a technical point of view. You know, there's, the people I really get off on, Simon Kirke, real simple player. He's got about four breaks that he plays. But the rest of the time, his tempo and the way he hits the kit, out of this world. Great. Rocking like a bitch,
Mm.
if you'll excuse the.
Mm.
And Richie Hayward.
Yeah.
Oh, now then. Now then, if we're talking swing, here we go. Anything that he played swung. Oh, out of this world.
Well, Little Feat really just so special.
Oh, yeah. Well, they had their own kind of music, didn't they? You couldn't put them in any kind of pigeonhole. They were Little Feat, and they did that.
I have to tell you, I had a really nice run in with Richie Hayward, and
Really?
yeah, yeah, and it was a funny one because sort of unusual. We were both with Drum Workshop in my early days of starting with the company, and I needed a hoop for my bass drum because the one that they had, I guess I was using their LA kit that I could have access to when I was playing in LA. And so I called the company, and Garrison, who's been the guy there for artists forever, said, well, Richie needs some stuff too. Can you both meet me at this parking lot in, I can't even remember what it was. It was sort of like we kind of triangulated.
Mhm.
But I got there before Garrison and had a really nice hang with Richie waiting for the gear to show up. And talked about Little Feat, talked about all the different kinds of grooves, specific songs, because I was a fan,
Mhm.
I mean, how could you not be? But what a great guy. And I was so sad when he passed to think, I didn't really have a good enough amount of time with him. Because as American drummers go, there are certain guys that I kind of consider to be rootsy and kind of, right? And they're drawing from a really deep well of American swing or whatever it is, that the Southern thing, the Louisiana thing.
Yeah. You got to include Levon Helm in that.
100%. 100%. Can I tell you a Levon story?
Oh, please, please.
So lucky. When Levon was recovering from, I guess, his first cancer situation, and he wasn't singing, he would still play at the Bottom Line Club in New York, where I would always go. And Mahavishnu Project was embraced by Alan Pepper and the Bottom Line, so we could play there every few months. He knew what it was. He said, "Oh, this is just like Mingus Dynasty. This is just like any band playing repertoire of the band that doesn't exist, but you're doing your own thing." So I knew Levon was playing, and I knew that at this point in my time at the Bottom Line, I could just walk around and walk backstage. And Levon had played, and I thought, well, now I'm going to go meet Levon. This has to happen. So I walk backstage, and he's there, he's changing, so he's shirtless. But as soon as I come in, he's the Southern gentleman, and he says, "You want some smoke? You want a drink? What can I get you?" And he's just recovering, just like getting his clothing to change from the thing. And he was so happy. He was so beautiful in his vibe. And he really was that guy, And of course, as far as singing drummers go, you can't beat it. But you're right. It's not a lot of stuff.
The singing drummers, I think it's more drummers singing.
Drummers singing, yeah.
Oh, no, you're right. He's a singer that drums. You are correct.
Well, he could step away at a certain point. He would step away from the drums and just sing, and then Richard or somebody else could play drums.
Yeah,
because those guys were, all over it.
Yeah. Oh, which brings me to another thing that Adam Minkoff.
Oh, yes, our buddy Adam Minkoff. Yeah.
Yeah, he sent me an email. He's invited me to Graham Nash's concert in Cardiff in a couple of months' time. So I had a quick look at the band. Like, all of them play drums. They don't have a drummer. The two guitar players play drums. Adam plays drums.
Yeah. There isn't much he doesn't do.
He's a great guy. I'm looking forward to meeting him.
That's fantastic. Yeah, Adam. So they have a thing. Pardon?
Sorry to change the subject.
No, it's great. I'm very curious for you to hear the Graham Nash band with him in it, and he also has a wonderful XTC repertoire project. And he's also a guy who's, as you probably know, has written out scores for a lot of the Giant stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And has gotten Kerry's approval on some of the things that are written out. I mean, how do you write out some of that stuff? It's not easy. But Adam, yeah, incredible all around musical guy and really sweet guy.
Yeah, I really look forward to. I'm trying not to watch any more of the band on YouTube because the whole of the set is on there. So I'm doing my best. I've just seen 3 tunes so far.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spoil the concert.
Were the Hollies in your field of view back in the day?
Oh, very much so. Very much so. Great band.
Yeah.
Great band. And I really liked their drummer as well. He was Bobby Elliott. He had style,
Hmm.
a lot of style, and a very nice chap. And he's still in the band. He's still
Oh.
going.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think in some ways people don't realize how important the Hollies were
Mm.
for vocal arranging and just songwriting. They're just kind of we assume that they're part of that world, but I think they were special.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. There was a big divide between Liverpool and Manchester, and they came from Manchester, and that was why they sounded so different to the Mersey sound.
What's the Manchester scene like at that time?
Um, it wasn't very far behind Liverpool. There were a lot of bands there, a lot of good bands. Billy J. Kramer and Dakotas, the Hollies. Um, there was a pop band called Freddie and the Dreamers, and quite a few other really good bands. Oh, 10cc were out of Manchester.
There you go.
Yeah. Uh, just trying to. I think that was about it that I know of. The hundreds of bands there, no doubt. It was the same kind of thing as Liverpool, but the music was very different.
Was it more pop oriented?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Liverpool was more kind of rock, but once the Mersey thing started, of course, it spread like wildfire, so that Manchester kind of embraced the whole thing. But the Hollies were very different to the Liverpool bands. Very different. I liked them a lot.
Yeah, really great stuff.
And of course, most of their early hits were written by Graham Gouldman, who went on to be part of 10cc.
Right. 10cc, such a great band.
Mm.
I've had Kevin on the program, and he was wonderful. And Godley and Cream also, I think, wonderful material there too.
Mm.
Here's something that I've never asked you about: Buzzy Linhart.
Oh, Buzzy, yeah.
So, what was that like working with Buzzy?
Oh, it was brilliant. Absolutely wonderful. A New York folk rock player uh, coming over to do an album. Our producer, Lou Reisner, put it all together. I don't know how he persuaded Buzzy to come over and do it, but he did. And we met him in London, and he came down to Swansea for a few weeks, 2 weeks, I think, rehearsal, and we rehearsed the album with him, and then went into chapel and recorded the album.
Hmm.
And he was a really sweet guy. And he actually came to see. I got a call from him in New York one time, and he came to see Giant. And he came back after the show and he said, "I've never seen anything like that in all my life. Absolutely wonderful." He loved it. Uh, he was a great guy. I got on really, really well with him. Well, we all did.
Yeah.
And he's passed as well now.
So we recently lost, I think, one of the great figures in rock history, Ozzy Osbourne.
Uh-huh.
Do you have any particularly fun or interesting memories of Ozzy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was just splendid on tour. Oh, he was like, God, they were so out of it. But Ozzy was a real sweetheart.
Hmm.
He was absolutely great. The same as all of them. All the band, we got on like a house on fire. Really, really well. Um, but did I tell you the story about the Dakota?
I don't think so.
Ozzy in the Dakota? No.
No.
Oh well, on this tour, um, the management rented a Dakota, an old Dakota, and all the crew and the equipment went on the Dakota, and there were two pilots, and they just hung out backstage every night, enjoying themselves.
Mhm.
Anyway, Ozzy Ozzy expressed a desire to fly an airplane, and he asked the pilots if he could come the next day with them on the Dakota and fly the airplane. And they said, "Yeah, sure, no problem, no problem at all." So the next day they take off and they got all the crew and all the gear, and halfway through the flight, the co-pilot comes back and he says, "Ozzy, do you want to come up now to the cockpit?" And Ozzy said, "Yeah, great, man." So up he goes into the cockpit and sit down, strap in, and the co-pilot says, "Right, that's the joystick there. That's the control column. To go up, you pull it towards you. To go down, you push it away from you, but you won't be doing any of that. Turn left, turn right, just like a car. But just don't do anything. When we say you've got control, you've got control, but just keep it nice and steady. You can do a little bit of left and right." He said, "I'm a little bit of up and down, but keep it nice and steady." So, right, okay. So he said, "Okay, Ozzy, you've got control." He says, "Have I really?" And they said, "Yeah, the plane's all yours. You are now flying the plane." And he said, "Yeah, Geronimo!" And pushes the stick for the control forward. And the plane goes,
Oh,
the pilot's, the pilot is got hold of it and go, "Ozzy, stop, stop, stop." Just put it into a dive
oh boy.
and then pull it back up again just to see what it was like.
Sure.
That's Ozzy.
Yes, always had a great feeling about him. Saw how humble he was when he met Paul McCartney at the Howard Stern show. Met him for the first time. Was a huge progger, I think, because there was that moment. I know I've told this on the show, but there's that moment where he had the TV show and the family, the kids come home from seeing Tool, and the opening band was King Crimson on that tour.
Mhm.
And the kids were flipping out. "Dad, have you heard this band, King Crimson?" He's like, "Oh, you like King Crimson? Well, then you should really listen to Gentle Giant and Yes and Genesis." And it's,
Yeah.
yeah, the greats know all the stuff. You know, he was not just the singer in a metal band, if you
Mhm.
will. He was a music fan. And I love that about him.
But to them, they were just a rock band, the dark kind of metal graveyard thing. That was all just a gimmick.
Yeah. Right. They weren't Satan guys,
Oh, good gosh, no, no, far from it.
but
They
it
were just
worked for them.
just a rock band, you know.
Yeah. In
It didn't
fact,
work.
Well, in fact, the lyrics often are very positive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Geezer Butler's writing a lot of those lyrics
Mm-hmm.
about peace and love, and certainly show the dark side, but then also show that, we got to get out of this or we're just going to be children of the grave,
Yeah. And nothing could be further from the truth. They're such sweet guys, They're really, really, really lovely guys. We enjoyed
Fantastic.
we enjoyed touring with them, even though we didn't get the audience reception that we would have desired. But
But sometimes you did. Derek mentioned that you went
yeah,
over well sometimes. Yeah.
yeah, a couple of times, couple, three, four, five times, maybe. Uh, the audience were receptive. They
Mm,
were ready to listen to something different. But down south, uh, it was, they didn't want this new fangled nonsense. They just wanted, to beat their heads and that kind
mm.
of thing.
I wanted to ask you about something that is non-musical because there's so many dimensions to your interests, and you live in such a beautiful part of the world. I mean, I'm someone that has been to Wales and just thought, what a just lovely, beautiful place. The people are lovely, the nature, everything is so special there. And I know that you're a lover of birds.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that and bird watching and your love of these flying things?
Well, I don't go out, I've got this. I've got a name for being a bird watcher, but I'm just a bird observer as such. I don't go out into the mountains with binoculars and sit for hours, looking for rare birds. I just spend a lot of time in my garden because we have a couple of dozen species of bird that live in and around our little plot because we're out in the middle of nowhere. So we have a family of woodpeckers that have young every year. So we I love to watch the parents feeding the young ones. I
Mm,
like to see how many young ones there are and how they get on with the rest of the birds. There are lots of species, different species of bird that come to the garden and we feed. So that's what I like is just observing them because the bird feeder is about 10 feet from my kitchen window. So uh, I can sit eating my breakfast and watch 30 birds feeding and having fun and stuff. So that's what the bird watching thing is.
it's great. Yeah, I'm in a place in New Jersey where there's quite a bit of nature and we have everything here. We have deer. In fact, this morning I woke up and there were two baby deer in the back feeding,
Lovely.
red foxes, lots of chipmunks. It's really, it is a kind of relaxing thing to observe them, right?
Oh, when you're out in the country and you see wild animals hanging out in your garden, uh, that is that's absolutely brilliant, absolutely wonderful. To me, anyway, observing wildlife. In fact, um, wild deer have started appearing here now.
Yeah.
They've escaped from a place 10 miles over the mountain and they worked their way across and they've actually been seen in the fields opposite my house. So we're expecting them any day now.
Yeah, they're beautiful. And very often I'll wake up and I'll see the imprints of where they slept on my lawn.
Really?
Oh yeah. And I can smell them sometimes before I see them. They'll like smell like horses.
Hmm.
And I'll say, oh, the deer are about. Where are they? And we have little families of them with the newborns, and they're kind of comfortable with me. I'm not going to approach them, but we'll stand and stare at each other,
Yeah, yeah.
and just like, what are they thinking? But they just have such of course, an innocence. And there's definitely predatory stuff going on in this area. So I see some of them are injured.
Mm.
I don't know what, but maybe bear, maybe foxes go after them, something like that. John, I have to tell you, I'm so happy to speak with you every time, to hang out with you. We obviously we do the hangs that we don't share with the public,
Hmm.
and I love your vibe. I love your energy. I'm so proud to call you my friend. I'm so pleased that you are around to see what Giant has done. To see now that body of work be held up, and also now gone off into other styles of music, including hip hop and all
Mm.
of the things that become kind of the aftermath of Giant, the impact of Giant.
Yeah. It's it's great to kind of reap the benefits now of what happened then, because I was so disappointed that it all came to an end, you know?
Yeah,
Even though that I love Civilian.
me too.
I think it's a great sounding album, and there's
Yes.
some good stuff on there. I don't know whether that would have been the direction. I don't know what would have happened, but I think, given hindsight, I think it was the right time to finish then. I really do. I think we've done the body work that we had to do. My own personal favorite is Power and the Glory, I think, as an all-round album, because there's some wonderful stuff on there.
Mm.
And as an album, that's my favorite. But the best sounding album was Civilian. But I'm really thrilled now to be reaping the benefits of seeing young people enjoying it now, because at the end we felt kind of dismissed. You know, that's the end of them. They're gone. Uh, Bye bye. And getting badly treated by people in the record industry.
Not just
Uh,
you.
oh, I know it happened to a lot of people, but I'm talking personally.
Yeah.
I was pretty upset about that, and losing the camaraderie and the playing with the best guys I'd ever played with, the best musicians that I'd ever met,
Mm.
who were writing great stuff that I enjoyed playing and that was a challenge. You know, there we are.
It's
That's what.
it's still there, though. It's still
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
It's
Oh, I love it. I love it. But there was something funny on the Gentle Giant Facebook page. There was
ah.
there's a guy a few weeks ago uh, who wrote in and said that he wished he could have heard the rest of the Gentle Giant albums after Three Friends. That means all the ones, including me, played by a jazz somebody who was more of a jazzy player, because he found me clumsy. He found my playing clumsy, and I thought, do you know, he's quite right. he's very right, because I never played with my wrists. I always played with my arms, unfortunately. So, when you're talking technical, that is clumsy, isn't it? Because you're not playing the rudiments. You're not
Hmm.
playing Buddy Rich. You're playing John Bonham. So it would appear clumsy. And I thought, he's totally right.
I don't know if the word clumsy is really the word, but I understand the point.
Mm,
But also, I understand that what you brought their music to life in a way that it had not really been in part of it before. And also, I have no notes. I have no critiques. Like, I'm not going to say, "Oh, I wish you had done this," or "I wish you had done that." I mean, it's just perfect the way it is. I wouldn't change a thing about what you did.
it would be interesting, though, to see which direction. I don't think they would have written the same tunes.
Not just that, but uh, look, there's so much going on with the four or five other guys. What do you really want a busy drummer, a jazzy drummer in that situation? You got to play the music. You and I have spoken about this a lot.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
reason you played the way you played was the choice, the right
Following
choice.
well, yeah, he didn't think so. I think so.
I don't know who he is, but I know who you are. And also, listen, the the music of Giant stands the test of time. And the fact that young people are now checking it out in a way that shows the longevity is such a great, even for a fan like me who's been there, I don't know, since Power and the Glory, I think would be around the time I came into it. And ever since, I just think, well, I can go back and listen to Freehand. And as I was telling you, up at the King Crimson camp, there was a group of campers who played the live version of Freehand and nailed it. And of course, everyone went nuts that who has the balls to go and play this material now? Also wanted to tell you, that there's a jazz guy here, Brad Meldow, a piano player, who has done an arrangement of Cogs and Cogs. And so there is that too, that, Bill Charlap, for instance, a great jazz pianist who was Tony Bennett's accompanist and is a great player. He came up as a prog guy. So, ELP and Giant and all these different bands feed into jazz too. Because of the level of sophistication, I think, to whatever it was.
Yeah.
They're not saying, I wish they had a jazz drummer.
Mhm.
They're saying, oh, there's fodder for me to go with that idea, counterpoint or the odd meters or just follow the phrase. People get so hung up. I'm kind of on a soapbox, but when people get hung up on the idea of odd meters or changing meter or all of these complexities, Steve Moore said something that I think is so on the money, which is if you're following the melody will tell you what the rhythm is. The
Mhm.
melody will tell you what the groupings are. The melody will tell you if it's in 6, 7, 9, 4, whatever.
Mhm.
That's to me the most direct way to really view it is also dealing with Mahavishnu music and the guys who don't count but hear it. They hear the phrase. They're not
Yeah.
counting. It's not an intellectual exercise, an arithmetic exercise. You hear the phrase. And that's one of the qualities of your playing, I think, that we can all really get off on is it doesn't sound to me like you're playing odd meters. It sounds to me like you're playing the music.
Well, thank you. that was what I played. That's the way I wanted to do it, and the way they wanted me to do it. And if they wanted it any different, I did it the way they wanted me to do it.
Yes.
It was whatever they wanted. I mean, there's no way I'd go against Ray or Perry and say, nah, I'm not playing that. Can you imagine? No way. I had far too much respect because they were so brilliant.
As always, I send you and all of the guys my respect. And John, I'm just going to say to be continued, because there's always going to be something to chat about.
There is. We've been at it for 2 hours already.
We've gone over 2 hours, and who knew? It flew by.
It did.
John, be well, my friend.
You too.
And everybody.
It's always a real pleasure to talk to you. You know much. I feel for you, brother.
You are a drum brother and my friend, and I wish you all the best in health and our continued conversations. And obviously, I'll be checking in on you very soon.
Yeah,
John Weathers.
A lot of editing to do.
No, we're going to give this out to the people. They love it.
Oh,
they love you.
Rambling.
No, I reined you in a bit. A bit. But I love every detail, John. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for everything you've given us.
Oh, you're very, very welcome, as always. So, until the next time.
Until the next time, my friend. And everybody, thank you for listening. This is the great John Weathers.
Okay. And as we Welshmen say, dabochi. I'll see you again sometime.
I like that. Thank you.
Dabochi.
Dabohi.
He.
He?
Yeah. Dabo. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, take care, brother.
Take care.